So did you have to do like the survival training and stuff?
Can't tell you. It's no real, Andrew. It doesn't matter.
You
I'm
you
trying to
have more
think.
titles than I would ever get. That's real to me. So you were
You're
basically
not.
like Volkov, like won the won the title, and they're like, we need to get you out here before you get shot. Peter, great to see you, my friend. How you getting on?
I'm very well, mate. How are you?
Aye, one day at a time, as they say. Well, you just keep plodding on as best you can. You know what it's
The
like.
little, the little ginger who could.
Yeah.
Aye. It's I do have this annoying habit of waking up every morning. So once you're up and dressed, you might as well do something.
Yeah, I mean, you wake up and then you actually get moving. I wake up and it's like, I'm a sloth. It's like, will I move today? I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Yeah, but the thing is, Andrew, when although I get on, get moving, it comes with its own percussion system between knees popping and hips cracking and the click, click, click in my back, deciding whether it's going to be straight or not today.
So that's why you're so good with sound and stuff then. Like you're just recording all
Yeah.
those and making it into music and things.
Well, maybe there's a side hustle in there somewhere.
Probably. Well, you could make a side hustle for that room, man. All the stuff that's in there, that is like nerdvana. That's
This is my salon. Yeah, it's an office. It's a shed. It's a shed with wallpaper. But no, this is kind of where I do the day job from.
mm.
It has been hijacked for some of my more ridiculous hobbies, but yeah. So I spend a bit of time in here, and it's quite a chill place, and it's full of some stuff's reference stuff, some stuff's memories. So it's a good place to work. It's nice and bright, and I just need to look around, and I've got stuff that reminds me of my family and my friends and my hobbies and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's.
It brings me into a good segue for talking about you and finding out about you, or as I call it, the origin story, because you'll know from superhero things, the one thing that everybody has in common, there's an origins. So,
Yeah.
Peter, for my audience, please tell us your origin story.
And what people tend to forget, supervillains have origin stories as well. I'm assuming you're talking about comedy.
Well, we'll start with the basics. Like, where were you born?
I was born in Bells Hill. There used to be a maternity hospital here called the Baby Factory. More for the delivering than the making of.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, I
it-
was a
it's,
proud resident of that factory myself.
as you know, it's gone now. But
Mhm.
nope, I was born in Bells Hill, and although I've travelled a lot through work and other stuff, home has always been Uddingston, Bothwell, that kind of surrounding area.
Well, and you have quite a fascinating backstory like, in terms of like some of the stuff that you've done, which I know about. One of the things was that, well, your brag was that there was NASA links in there, I believe.
So yeah, I used to work for a German engineering company called Thyssen, and they were contracted to do some work with the International Space Station. There was some refit work getting done, and as part of that, because of the joint venture, the partnership between ISS and or the European Space Agency and NASA, it's a kind of it's one of those sort of seven Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separation. But I have signed a NASA NDA and I have done NASA training,
Hmm.
but they wouldn't let me fly one of the rockets, which I was really pissed off about. I think I was very selfish.
So did you have to do like the survival training and stuff?
Can't tell you.
Oh, the NDAs.
No, I
Yes,
no,
there we go.
I didn't didn't do any of the water tank stuff. The stuff
Hmm.
was basically in the labs and and the engineering facilities, which it's NASA. It comes with its own books of this is how you must do things.
Hmm.
Because I mean, there's lots of things that people in engineering and like the whole project management methodology
Hmm.
came from NASA. It's everything, a lot of stuff that we have in modern technology and modern engineering um, was developed by NASA because they are very much problem and task specific people whereby we have this problem, we have to fix it. Things they have no slippage on delivery dates. It's taking off on Monday, so it needs to be ready. It's not as if you can come in a day late with any projects. But I mean things like microwaves and super glue and a lot of things which are filtered down to sort of everyday items started as NASA projects because they had very little space. things had to be very light and things had to be very reliable.
Well, one of the things that you're very much known for in our circle of comedians, which we'll get to very soon, is that you are quite the jack of all trades and master of, well, quite frankly, fecking everything.
I feel that's unfair. I am really, really old, Andrew. People say, "Oh, I played rugby for 3 or 4 years," or I played the piano for 5 or 6 years. People have hobbies. I've just been around so long. I have a catalogue of hobbies, which I've done for 5 or 6 or 10 years. When you get to my age, you get to be able to rack up 4 or 5 of them, and maybe a couple other ones. But yeah, it's I do things. I know we're going to talk about mental health later. I do suffer from from mild bipolar disorder.
Mm.
I have enormous amounts of I can have enormous amounts of energy and focus. So it allows me to, if I'm engaged in something, it allows me to focus and understand or try and understand. I'm also an engineer, so you've got that all those kind of things line up, and you go, right, I want to know, I want to do that. How does it work?
Mm.
How what do I need to know to be able to do that, or use that piece of software, or do that job, or use that piece of equipment? Um, Eventually, there's the darker side of it when when you can come off of that kind of
Mm.
high, but it does allow you. It has its benefits if you learn to use them.
Mm.
And again, being really old, I've had a lot of dark days to learn to teach me how to find the good days.
Yeah, well, I definitely wouldn't say that you're old, my friend. I would say that you have like experience in a lot of different and very interesting things. And one of the things that I instantly, as a massive nerd, that I freely admit, was that finding out that you were a retired professional wrestler, that was like the pig in poo for me. I wanted to know everything about it. So what I really want to ask is, how did you get involved in pro wrestling?
Purely pretty much same way I get involved in comedy, purely by accident and being in the right place at the right time. I used to throw a discus and a hammer for Scotland in Great Britain, and we had a strength coach who left to go and work in wrestling.
Mm.
And I always made the joke of when I retire from this, I'm going to go and do wrestling. Never thought anything of it. And then I say after I'd done track and field, I played a bit of American football, and I was getting. I mean, this must have been late 20s, early 30s. I was getting banged up. Injuries were starting to because it was a long season. When you play play sort of amateur level in the UK. You play for your club. If your club are good, I was at East Kilbride Pirate. If your club are good, you make the playoffs, which is more games. And then if you're lucky enough to make the national team, that's more games. But we don't have the American collegiate system, so if you play offensive line or defensive line, chances are you're going to be playing both. Not as much when you get to the kind of a higher level of the playoffs, but not everybody's available to jump on a coach and head down to Newcastle every Sunday to go and get 7 colours knocked out of them.
Mm.
So it was a long season. Season would start, pre-training would start for the international, so January, February, and you were still having matches in November. So you were getting very little recovery time between games, very little recovery time between seasons. So I think I played 5 years, and then I thought I'm done. And then I was still fairly fit and fairly active, and I thought I want to do something, but I don't want to. I don't want. I kind of want to have my own schedule. And was always a big wrestling fan. Loved wrestling. Again, I was when I was a kid, I used to sit down in front of World of Sport and watch Dickie Davis and Giant Haystacks and Rollerball Rocco and all those guys. And you notice how I picked the heels naturally.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and I saw. I used to read it was that Pro Wrestling Illustrated, I think it was, or Pro
Hmm.
Wrestling something. It was a magazine when people used to buy magazines. There wasn't much in the way of online coverage, and there was an advert in the back of it for Hammerlock Wrestling, which was down in Sittingbourne because back then the only two schools were really Hammerlock and Sittingbourne, and the FWA school, which was in, oh, I want to say Brighton, but I might be wrong. It's kind of like south coast. So, signed up for one of their 2-day camp auditions. You went down camp, they taught you for a couple of days, and if you were any good, they invited you back, and I got invited back. So, and that's, I mean, you were well, last year's Glasgow Festival show. My straight man who delivered my eulogy was my mate Mike, who I met on that first day at that first camp, and we've been friends ever since. And that must be bang on 30 years.
Yeah. How many titles did you win? That's what I've got. I really want to know.
It's no real, Andrew. It doesn't matter.
You
Trying
have
to
more
think.
titles than I would ever get. That's real to me.
Titles in wrestling doesn't mean you're any good. Titles in wrestling means that you put bums on seats. And you get to a stage where if you're good enough and you put enough bums on seats, you don't need to put a title on you. People come and watch you anyway. Titles are a way of developing talent. You know, if you've got a good guy and you want him to become your main good guy, you build them up, and then put the title on him, because at that point, your crowd then goes, "Oh, he's the top good guy," and then people will get behind him. I held the NWA British Heavyweight title, the NWA Scottish Heavyweight title, couple of versions of the tag titles, the Dutch Heavyweight title. I have no idea. That's an interesting story, possibly for another day. Was that when Holland won their title and there was a riot in the club because it was a kind of rock club with a ring at the bottom and 3 layers. If you think like Berlinky's that kind of
Yeah.
um, and the bad guy from across the sea was it was not meant to be that I won, but the promoter decided I was going to win. So I basically had to get escorted to the airport to
So you were
prove or not.
basically like Volkov, like won the title, and they're like, we need to get you out here before you get shot.
Bah, I don't know about shot. It was Holland. They're all quite laid back. You might have been a light stabbing or something, or beaten to death with a pancake or a waffle. But aye, but no, that was a fun trip. But no, I've got 101 wrestling stories, which are for those nights when you're sitting around a fire with far too many beers in you and
Mm.
you want to laugh. But
Or if you have a wrestling podcast with several friends who are itching to talk to you, Ross Ginger, hint.
yeah,
Yeah.
dial up. I'm
Mm.
cross plugging. I'm doing a podcast for Scottish Wrestling Network. They've got a show, and
Mm.
they want me to go in and talk to them about my time in wrestling, and then transitioning into comedy and that kind of thing. But
Mm.
so
Well, that
yeah,
actually transitions us into comedy because that was how we met doing the Ultra Comedy course, as
yes.
a few people have. So, what made you bite the bullet to start doing the stand up?
Two things. A few people know this story, and a few people don't. That the reason I'd done Ultra was my daughter Kaylee was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and she's all right now. Touch wood. And the Beatson, I cannot speak highly enough about the Beatson Centre in Glasgow. The fantastic people who do tireless, fantastic work for hundreds, if not thousands of people. I think even Jay Godley, who went through that terrible disease, I think she was very sort of, she said a lot of good things about Beatson. But Kaylee had got diagnosed, and she went through her treatment. That she had surgery at the Royal, and then she had her treatment at the Beatson Centre out at the end of Great Western Road. And it's one of these things when something like that happens in your life, you all you want to do is try and give something back. You can never repay the debt to these people, because you've got kids.
Yeah.
Anything happens to your kids, you feel so helpless. There's nothing you can do, and you just want. If you could, you would take it from them, and so they can go on with their life. But obviously, in that situation, you can't. So Kaylee actually saw the thing for Ultra, and it was raise money for charity. Cause we said we wanted to do some raise money for charity, and if I'd been 10 years younger, No, I'm lying to myself. If I'd been 15 years younger, I'd maybe have done like the ultra boxing or the ultra MMA. But at 54, I think 53, 54 when I started, I was too old and broken for that shit. So comedy seemed the easy way out. I'm not gonna get dropped in my head or beaten to a pulp. So I signed up. I'd known Billy Kirkwood from the wrestling, and he couldn't say enough good things about Viv. As everybody, I don't think Viv's ever had a bad word said against her. Or if there has been, then she's had them dispatched fairly quickly. They're in a shallow grave somewhere. But no, he goes, look, if you're going to do it, do it. I did have during COVID, I did have a kind of podcast web show myself. And I got Billy on a couple of times, and we spoke about, do you fancy doing some stand up and stuff like that? But I never had the balls to try it or the inclination, to be honest. But at least with the Ultra thing, there was a goal in sight. And believe it or not, and I've said that this many times, and I'll continue to say it, the plan was one and done. It was to go there, raise the money, do it, tick box, stand up comedy. Yeah. Didn't quite work out that way, but so that's how I got in. Yeah, well, done the 8 weeks as you did in the Park Bar out in Ibrox with Viv and the rest of the crew. Done the Dygate show. Got to open the Dygate show,
Mm.
which was if you've never. I'm used to audiences, but when it's your first time doing stand up, to be the first person out
Mm.
on that big stage in front of nearly 300 people, it was. Yeah, it was kind of that little voice in the back of your head, and you kind of squeeze your arse cheeks together and go, oh, cabin doors to manual, cabin doors to manual. But it was good. I loved it.
Yeah, well, I was because you were the opener in the evening, I was the opener in the afternoon as well, and it was the same kind of deal. Like the hyperventilation starts to kick in a little bit just before you're about to go on. And it's the same deal. What you've done performances before, you've been on stage, you spoke to people, but in a completely different environment, a new ball game, you're like, oh no, oh no, here we go. Like you said, the rear iris kind of closes over.
Yeah.
Or it's very willing to open up very, very fast. So
Yes.
you
No.
don't so you don't know which one's going to happen. But and it's the same deal. You go up, you think one and done, and then in your case, I think saying that you took it by storm is an underestimation to storms. There was a lot of gigs that you've done. In particular, in the Glasgow Comedy Festival, you went ahead and sold out your show before any of the actual professional comedians, we say with the air quotes, did. And tell us a little bit about the process behind coming up with the show and what was the thoughts around it.
It was a subtle blend of ego and stupidity. I had the 5 minutes. Things were going all well. I had the 5 minutes. I quickly kind of had a 10 minute, and then I wrote another 10 minute, and I was using both of them, which is exactly what Viv tells you not to do. So I kind of thought, do you know what? I've got 20. Um, and at that time, I had two or three like biker stories, wrestling stories, which are about 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you wank them out. And I thought, do you know what? I could probably do an hour. I had absolutely no evidence to support this. And there was just that little voice in the back that goes, fuck it. You can do an hour. You can do an hour. Go and do an hour. It'll be fine. What could possibly go wrong? Um, so I booked the show, put it on the forum. So family, friends, wrestling. I've still got a lot of followers when I was a wrestler and all that. So a lot of those people came, and yeah, and it sold out in like a week and a half.
If that,
Um,
by the time I'd scrape the money together, let they go, right, I'm going to get it. And I'm also going to get my own show, a couple of shows organized as well. Not only did I go, oh crap, he's booked the same date, but that was when you put up the song and I quote, you fucked it.
aye.
Because
Oh
all the
no,
tickets were gone, which was
yeah, no.
fantastic.
I did. There was a lot of people like going, you've got, we'll get tickets, we'll get tickets, we'll get tickets," and it was a kind of, well, you had your chance and you blew it. But
Mm,
I no, I think they went in like just less than a week.
mm,
Uh, I've got two shows booked for next year, and they are pretty much. I'll be surprised if there's tickets left by Christmas.
And that's absolutely
Okay.
amazing. It's one thing we've noticed as well. Like you've got like such a solid like network of people that actively support you. Like both impressed and very, very envious at the exact same time. But from your sets and from the work that you do, like the comedy that you come out with, it's piss your pants funny. It's what you want it to be. What everybody leaves with a smile on their face. They have a great time. They thoroughly enjoy it. We've collaborated as well. Again, I've been so grateful that you have. But I wanted to know, where were your inspirations and your styles of comedy? Did you have any, or was it just this is my style? Deal with it.
That's a fantastic question. I will take the compliment. Thank you very much. And for Jen, if you're watching, that's how you take a compliment. You go, "Thank you very much." You move on. Again, it's maybe a generational thing, Andrew. The comedians I grew up, there was less, there were fewer platforms for comedians. So the comedians you did see, or the comedians you were aware of, were kind of, and I'm not saying that comedians nowadays are of a lesser standard, but the tip of the spear was a lot narrower, because if you were making BBC or ITV or STV kind of prime time or any time, you were good, because you were taking it. There wasn't like 74,000 Sky or satellite channels. There was no streaming platforms. The filter was a lot thicker. So if you were on television, you were good. So there was, and we're starting to get LPs. That's how fucking old I am. Of like George Carlin and uh, Dennis Leary and Dave Allen and the British comedians like Billy Connolly, and I know people give them a load of shit now, but in the old days, guys like Des O'Connor and Bruce Forsyth were genuinely funny stand-ups. Bob Monkhouse, a man of about a million jokes. Do you know what I mean, these guys were boom, 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 and they had a lifetime of working the working men's clubs, and and working the circuit, to hone their act, and those were the guys that I found funny, or those were the comedians I grew up with. So I'm very, I like the sarcastic, dry, almost angry kind of George Carlin, Dennis Leary kind of stuff. But I love the kind of observational storytelling, and the ability to to start off, go 180 degrees that way, and then 40 minutes later come back and nail it the way Conley does. And I think he is a genuinely funny and guy, but I think a lot of people out with comedy, they accept that he's funny, but they don't understand the mechanics of what he just done. Because I mean, we again, we're nowhere near that level of the food chain. But trying to create something funny enough within the first 2 or 3 minutes, and then work your way back to it 40 minutes later is genius.
Uh,
But again, there's loads of comedians out there that I've obviously watched over the years. But those are kind of my influences.
Yeah, well, and obviously George Carlin's one of mine as well, because not only comedy but Thomas and Friends, as you know, what
Yeah.
what narrated that in the US, and he did that so his family could see a different side of him, so they
Mhm.
didn't get known as just the quote unquote the angry comedian was what he was known
Yeah.
as. And do you think because you've got like a lot of other things in your belt as well, it also like widens the persona of you as well? It's not just what there is. There's Pirate King, Pete Murphy, comedian. There is also what NASA. There's pro wrestler. There's biker. What we second we
Yeah.
found out like it was what the biker that was getting was more stories as well. What got you into like motorcycles and things like that?
I am the poster child for multiple personality disorder. I've always been quite Americanized. I think I was as a kid. I kind of I saw everything American is fantastic. As a 56-year-old man, I would now like to retract that statement. But I never wanted a motorcycle. I always wanted a Harley Davidson. I liked American football. I liked American wrestling. I liked barbecue. I was very Americanized as a kid, and that kind of grew up, and it's been a theme for my life. And Harleys or motorbikes is it's as soon as I can afford one, I got one. I've been in a couple of clubs and a couple of riding clubs and stuff like that, and there's a great camaraderie. I've been incredibly fortunate. I shipped my bike and rode it across America a couple of times. I drove a couple of European tours. I went to Lloret de Mar, which is in the south down in Spain. 10 years ago, I went with a load of mates and we went to Prague. And then obviously just before Kaylee was diagnosed, me and her went to Budapest in Hungary, which was a 14-day trip. And there's it's impossible to explain. There's something about, you know, if you've got those good roads and that good weather, getting up in the morning, doing 300 or 400 miles, stopping for lunch at a little taverna and having a glass of wine, because in Europe they accept that you're an adult and you can have a glass of wine and then go about your day without maiming and killing people. If I won the lottery, it's a fantastic way to spend your time, but bills have to be paid. Can't do it all the time. But no, it's one of the it's experiences, and you go and you have a hard day on the bike, and then you have a couple of glasses of wine, a couple of beers, whatever your poison, and then you do the same thing the next day. But it's things like that that generate stories. It's impossible to put 15 guys who are all bikers, who are all smart arses, um, on the road for 2 weeks, 24 hours a day, driving through 11 countries on the way there and the way back. And it's impossible for something not to happen. And it's just finding the funny in it.
Well, one thing is we will definitely be asking you back for a part two because there's so many things that I want to ask you, so many questions that I need to ask as well. But also conscious that we are coming up on time.
Okay.
So the first thing that I'll ask you
I always run
is,
over. You should know that by now.
well, in fairness, like we know others that have not only ran over, they've overshot like 5 runways. But when they've done it, well, we've survived them too. So the first thing I'll ask is, like, for socials, for people wanting to book you for gigs or things like that, where can they find you?
Pirate King Comedy. On Insta, it's pirate_king_comedy. And on Facebook, it's Pirate King Comedy or Peter Murphy. I don't do X or Twitter, and I certainly don't do TikTok.
No, we are not of that generation. I don't
No.
want to be. Well,
As
and
Mother Teresa once said, fuck your TikTok. You probably need to bleep that.
no, we are allowed
Yeah.
swearing on here. We're well past the first minute. You're fine.
Oh well, you should have told me that much earlier. So yeah, Pirate King Comedy on anything. If you're on a platform, type in Pirate King Comedy, and if I don't come up, go somewhere else.
And final question, because this is a mental health show, I have to ask if you could give one piece of advice to anybody that's struggling with mental health issues at this point in time, what would that piece of advice be and why?
You are never on your own. I would say the common themes, regardless of your type of mental fizziness, is there always comes a point that you think, I can't deal with this, or I can't do this anymore. And the very fact is, it's not I can't do this anymore, it's we can do this. Whether it's friends, family, support system, fantastic support systems out there. Uh, there's another story or another part to this, about Chrissy's house as well, with my nephews and other things. Um, but there's professionals, free professionals out there who will help. And there is always, either at the end of the phone or the end of the street, there's somebody there that you can go talk to, and find out what your triggers are and avoid them. The amount of people who repeat the same mistakes over and over again and go, "Oh, why am I struggling? Why can I?" If you ate something that made you throw up, you wouldn't eat it again. And life's like that. If there's something you're doing or somewhere you're going or people you are with that is mentally making you throw up, stop doing it.
I think that's one of the best analogies that you could have for mental health, like, especially around triggers. Like, I'm guilty of it myself sometimes. Like there'll be triggers that maybe I've not recognized, and it's been like, oh crap, that's got me again. And it's taken maybe 2 or 3 goes to really know definitely that's it. But that's probably the best analogy that you could have for anybody that feels like they are trapped in those cycles of repeating the same patterns, and maybe they think, am I just insane? No, it's a case of what you've tried something mentally, it hasn't worked out, just don't do it again.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Peter, you've been an absolutely fantastic guest, as I knew you would be. You're one of the best guys to not only be on a show like this with, but a good friend, someone that is great to share any green room or any comedy circuit with. And one of the things I actually want to say before we sign off is that thank you so much for letting me be a part of some of your gigs that you did with Pirate King Comedy. They were
Welcome.
one of the most professionally run, one of the best experiences that I'd had. You gave a wee ginger guy for Coatbridge a chance when, let's face it, not a lot of people were. And for that, I want to say that I'm eternally grateful. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome anytime, mate.
And to everybody that's been watching, I've been Andrew Durnan. This has been the amazing Peter Murphy, aka the Pirate King. Go and sub to him, find out all of his latest and greatest adventures, because trust me, you will not be disappointed at this escapades that he gets up to. And until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.